Right, so tomorrow at midnight, a significant drop in the price of petrol. It's going down by R2.04 a litre for both 95 and 93 octane. Diesel prices also dropping less sharply, about 46 to 56 cents a litre. So let's discuss this now with Gavin Kelly, CEO of the Road Freight Association. Gavin, thank you so much for joining us. So this is generally surely going to be good news for our economy. It does mean that it's going to cost less, I suppose, all round through our economy.
Sally, any is good news. Let's face it. We've faced a couple of months where it just kept going up and up and up. So this is good news. Petrol, R2, let's round it off and say R2 a litre. But freight moves with diesel, so we'd like to see that coming down a lot more than just the 60 or 70 cents that we're now seeing. Because every time that fuel price reduces, it means less cost to move those goods per kilometre, and it means you and I eventually will pay less for those goods wherever we buy them.
Yeah, so, I mean, diesel, it's between 46 and 56 cents a litre less. And as you say, petrol, R2 less. So it's really significant that diesel hasn't gone down by as much as petrol. Do you know why?
I think it has a lot to do with the way in which things are refined, and it has to do with the amounts that are brought in, obviously. It's a good thing. I mean, petrol going down by R2 a litre, there are a lot of people who go to work and back, who depend on transport in whatever sort of frame to get to where they need to generate revenue and need to buy goods. So let's not downplay that. Obviously, from a freight perspective, we would like to see diesel, which is the majority of our vehicles use diesel to move, and then obviously Transnet uses that as well in terms of rail. We'd like to see that drop as well. I mean, not being greedy, it has dropped, and hopefully next month it's going to drop a lot more, and that's going to eventually plow into the economy, and hopefully by the end of the year we're going to see far better levels of where the economy is. It's going to affect the repo rate, it's going to affect the inflation rate, it's hopefully going to affect the repo rate, and it's more importantly, it's going to affect your and my pocket in terms of what we can or can't buy.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it's a sustained decrease, then it's going to have even better impact. I want to speak to you a little bit more broadly about your industry. We have seen intermittent demonstrations and trucks being targeted by some people within the trucking industry who say that foreign drivers are being employed by unscrupulous company owners, employing them for a lot less than they'd pay locals. Just last week, we heard that the Zimbabwe special permits are being extended by 6 months. Could this cause issues?
I'm sure it will. I'm sure it will. There are two sides to this argument. The one side is obviously those who are here in South Africa with a permit, whatever that permit is called, have some sort of value into the economy, they have some sort of job security, and that was going to be wiped out at the end of the year. Then obviously on the other side of the coin, we have this push, this call for South Africans to be employed in those jobs held by foreigners. So it's sort of a bit of a dichotomy in terms of where the country finds itself, but it's going to have repercussions. And we've said to the Minister of Home Affairs and the Minister of Labour, you need to set very, very clear rules. You need to make sure that those that are creeping in under the radar, and that's always the problem, is that we have rules, and then there are those who somehow get under those rules or get through the cracks. That needs to be closed, and you need to have some sort of finality. Now, we hoped that would have been sorted by the end of the year. We raised the alarm in terms of the processes that were in place, and I suppose the Minister of Home Affairs has decided that those processes aren't ready, and he's now extended those ZEPs or those special permits. It's going to have ramifications.
What sort of rules or checks and balances need to be in place to make sure that people are working legally in the country?
Well, I think, first of all, in our sector, remember, it isn't only our sector, but in our sector, if you're going to register a company or a business as a road freight operator or a transporter in the common parlance, then that company needs to prove that they meet the various sets of legislation. So show Who are you employing? Register those employees with the bargaining council or the council that is relevant to your sector in which you operate. Show where, if you have foreigners, what sort of permits or approvals or recommendations or authorities that they have. And then finally, you need to make sure that those who don't comply are dealt with, because now you have those companies who don't want to abide by the rules, and they create the problems, they undercut, they create the unemployment, they create the problems that we see in the industry. So those rules that are there, and we've got very good legislation, they being government or the authorities or those inspection bodies need to make sure that those rules are complied with.
All right. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening, Gavin Kelly, CEO of the Road Freight Association.